SAPS is here.
Morning, Honourable Chair, Honourable Members. I'm Lieutenant General Jacobs. We have General Zulu, Head of Operations. We have Colonel Kawane. He's responsible for the tech op in MMSA, and Lieutenant Colonel Maritz is the job commander. Thank you. I'm representing the National Commissioner. I extend his apologies, but I sent me to represent the police. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, yes, I was advised of the apologies that the chair of the board is making. And we are agreeable to the fact that there's numerous engagements. As long as there's board representation on our engagements, we'll be quite comfortable with that. So that was advanced. I think we'll continue with our engagements as we have. And actually scheduled them. At some point I was in discussion with the minister thinking we could shuffle the program to make sure they hear that was not feasible on our side because, well, as you know, Parliament program, this is the only week available to us for committees and we are in business. Chairperson, the main reason, of course, that we are here is, as you know, we are having ongoing engagements and interactions with ESKOM on a variety of factors, including but not limited to, so I think that has to be clarified, including but not limited to the issues that the former CEO raised. So the main thrust of this should not be seen as just that. We do recall as a committee that when we had another engagement, we were advised that this power station specifically was operating at an EAF of 40 to 70%. That was of serious concern to us. And of course, there's the permanent referral to Mpumalanga as a crime scene insofar as ESKOM matters are concerned. We have been on 2 occasions to Kusile, but in a different perspective, because we were worried as we continue to hear about the timelines, the cost escalations, and the fact that when the power station is not completed as it should be. So that's why we were there. But in the broader context now, it's clear why there may be some of the challenges that we have. We engaged with the SIUs, previously. They've advised us that there is cartel, syndicate, or cabal, whichever phrase works, the 3 main streams at ESKOM, trucking, fuel, and coal itself. For an example, in Kusile, 700 trucks are delivering coal every single day. Yet the power station sits on top of a coal mine, New Lago, and no mine is taking place. Now, the latest revelations, of course, are pointing to the fact, as already said, that Mpumalanga is a crime scene, and the general manager, I'm going to assume it's not this gentleman, so I don't see the bulletproof vest we were told about it. But we've been advised that the situation escalated to the point that the general manager here had to walk around in a bulletproof vest with 2 armed protectors at all times whilst he was here, and that the threats and risks that escalated to his family as well, including his children, even going to school under security. So we wanting to get a perspective and an understanding as we deal with the ESKOM matters, and of course then there's the latest deployment of the SANDF at the power stations, and we've already seen them here as well. So the major question we are wanting to ask is, what is going on at Tutuka? Why would the power station be operating at an EF of 15 to 70%? Have there been improvements? Yes or no? So we want to get a full understanding of the state of health or lack thereof of this power station, because in our assessment, it seems to be the breeding ground of all other ESKOM-related problems in this province. It's the common denominator, it's the point of departure, it's the platform upon which things happen. And to attest to that was coming here, we had to apply our own security considerations. Is it wise to actually go to Tuga? And we finally arrived at the determination that we should. Otherwise, we let the criminal syndicate win and control the narrative of oversight. So we need to see and understand what's going on at this power station. Of course, in the broader context of the issues we've been engaging at ESKOM. So, colleagues, I see a presentation. I think we will take that and be briefed on it. I'm going to assume everyone's got a hard copy in front of them because that camera there is in the way. So if everybody's got hard copies, all right, so then it's fine. We don't have to worry about that. Mr. Chairperson, I just wanted to brief that's the context one would give in terms of why we are. If I've left out any other key salient observations, the colleagues will raise them in the inter-elections session. But in the main, what has triggered us being here is those three areas. The EAF, the safety issues in their material form, and the fact that the station is one of those where the SANDF has had to be brought. So, Mr. Chairperson, over to colleagues on the right. Chair, over to you.
Thank you once again, Honourable Chair. I just want to make a few points to anchor our conversation. It is indeed firstly a pleasure to have honourable members here at Tutuga. I just want to highlight a few things in terms of where we are at this point in time as we meet honourable members. Firstly, we hope you would have seen late last week, we announced that we managed to settle our annual collective bargaining arrangements with our trade unions, our strike, and so we achieved a 3-year agreement, which we see in a very positive light. I also, together with Dr. Gauteng, the chair of our Human Resources and Boards Committee, Capital and Boards Committee, together with the acting group chief executive, we met with the national office bearers of the parties of the unions that operate in our environment, so AMM, Dates, and NUSA. And we also got a really heartening assurance from those office bearers at the level of the office of the general secretaries, who were there in person, that they really want us all as ESKOM and workers to ensure that we will ensure that we bring the country out of this challenging situation we have with load shedding. When we met you last in Parliament, we introduced Mr. Kumalo as a newly appointed head of operations. And really, from a board point of view, we must say we're really heartened by the new energy that he's put into generations. Under his leadership, we have seen so far we've managed to avert a severe load shedding during this winter. I was saying the other day on another platform that it's not by fluke. He's been working quite hard to turn the tide on load shedding. And just some pointers in that regard. The last time we had such levels of energy availability factor was in August 2022. We're currently, in the last 2 months up to this week of June, have been experiencing averages of 60% energy availability. certainly demand is a little subdued compared to this time last year in terms of winter. But hopefully you've seen that we've now, almost 2 weeks now, have been able to have full days of limited load shedding and only load shedding in the evenings when peak demand occurs, when people get home to cook. And averaging levels have been about stage 3 load shedding. I'll leave it to him to tell you what sort of magic wand he's been pulling, but really as a board, the regular feedbacks we've been getting have been really, really positive. 2 weeks ago, I met with him and his team, in other words, all the power station general managers. The energy that I've felt in there addressing them is really palpable. They spent 2 days in Megawatt Park looking at the challenging goals that he's set for them in terms of how we're going to go about sustaining energy availability. As matters stand, we remain optimistic that we are going to eventually achieve the 65% EAF availability by March 2024 in line with our turnaround plan. And we continue to forecast that we are working towards 70% energy availability by March 2025. On the pressing matter of Tutuga, in terms of some of the matters we had reported previously on safety, we have a new person on the block. So the person to my right is not the man who used to come to work in a bulletproof vest. Mr. Bruce Moyo is the new colleague in terms of being in charge of Tutuga. He's not new to ESKOM. When Zuide, with your permission, gets to share with you what he's been doing, he's been moving talent around. He's been reprofiling general managers for power stations in line with their capabilities, matching them to the challenges that the power stations face, all as part of ensuring that we bring to bear the requisite turnaround that we've been working towards. So when he speaks, he'll also speak as to where and how we are in terms of our S12 colleague that used to be the power station at Tutuga. 2 units are running and been pumping well here at Tutuga, so the energy availability is much higher than you last heard of. And as I came in earlier this morning, I was shown that we are working on Unit 5 to bring it up on stream, so that will add some significant amount of megawatts to the station's capability and energy availability. We still have at this station 2 units that are on unplanned outage. The colleagues will share more in terms of how quickly, how long we believe we'll be able to turn that around. But I don't wish to make long remarks. Just to say, from where we sit as the board, we're seeing offshoots of progress, of hope, that we are getting more and more on top of the challenge. And we are delighted Mr. Manwana has really grabbed the horn, the bull by the horns, as it were, and is really taking the tide. That's all I'm going to say today. And I would like to send that number to you, to let them do your thing. And you will then decide how and we really need to continue. Thank you.
Thanks, right with the report can conclude that. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good morning to the honorable members. So, the Executive Chair of the Board. Honorable Chair, I think let me introduce to the committee the man of the house here, Tutunga, because we are here to and then I'll come in as well. So, Bruce, obviously one of the reasons why I brought him here, because we also wanted to show quick stability in terms of operations here as well. He's not a new, he was here from the station. He grew up here, he was maintenance manager here as well, many years. So I needed someone that can hit the ground and run actually, given the situation that you just outlined, Chair, without maybe pronouncing much in terms of what's going to be anticipated, but I must say, it's quite encouraging to come to this side now as well, to see the staff motivations and all of the things. I think it suffices to me to say this, Chair, as well, that one of the things the staff asked me here, because this is the first power station I visited, and also when I came to introduce Bruce, they asked me that please help us. We are not all of us thieves in this power station. We are doing our honest jobs every time. If management pick up those people that are doing wrong things, they must deal with that and then allow us to do our job. And that's one of the issues, Chair, Honorable Chair, that I promised the employees here that we will do just that. That if there are those that are doing the wrong things, I mean, the police are with us here, security will allow them to deal with their passion so that the power station manager's primary goal is to produce in the power station. It's not our job to chase the thieves around. That's one thing that I've agreed was to say. Although that might have been the issue, but we've got police to deal with criminals and all, because we don't have competences in that. So I just want to put that one out there. Chair, and I'm quite grateful, and I've met with the generals as well. They've also pledged their support to us, to assist us there, so that we can focus on what we are here to do, to produce make out. So Bruce has got some short presentation that we will be sharing with the committee that will take you where we are with these power stations and where we are going, because that's one of the things I said to him, that and the management here, that it doesn't matter we spend too much time on what has happened. We are here, the country is suffering, we need to act now and produce the results as we move forward. So Bruce, over to you, if you can just take the committee through where we are and what we are planning to do as well. Then we will cover most of the issues as well, Chair.
Honorable Chair and honorable members of this total committee, I would like first maybe to start with the safety induction, just in case something happens. We have prepared a small talk from our risk and assurance manager. Check if we can do that. Then,
good morning and warm welcome to all the honorable members. My role this morning is just to take you through a safety induction. I'm going to be very brief. Should there be an emergency, an alarm will go off and there will be an announcement whether we should evacuate or not. Should there be a need for us to evacuate, please do not panic. Take your valuables out of this door towards the corridor. You will take the stairs and go down and proceed to the medical center. Alternatively, around this bottom there is another emergency exit that the stairs will take us down, and then from there we go to the medical center. The attendance register is circulating, so we will be able to account for everyone. In terms of facilities, from the lift, the first door is the gents, the second door is the ladies. We also have refreshments on the foyer, and later this afternoon we will be also going to the plant. Please be aware that we do have a risk in the plant, so be careful. However, you will be escorted to safe areas. That will be all from your side. Welcome to Sipho once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and thank you for clarifying the refreshments for Honorable Hadden. All right, but Mark, over to you.
Honorable Chair, can I stand up?
Whichever is comfortable for you.
Thank you very much,
I just need you on the mic.
On the mic.
Yeah, so you can.
As long as that gentleman there will satisfy himself.
Okay.
Just once we are recording this as any other parliamentary meeting for records and transcribing for hours. So as long as right, are you happy?
You want me to sit down? Yeah, let me rather sit down so that you can hear me. Okay. Welcome again to Tutuga Power Station. As I have been already introduced, I'm not new to Tutuga. Having joined in 2005, left in 2010, after going through several positions. I've been a cluster general manager for 5 power stations before I've been recalled to Tutuga to come and run Tutuga Power Station. I started here on the 8th of May, and then because I'm no stranger to the power station, we have made a lot of inroads which I wanted just to share. So if you look at your pack, which I have created, obviously when one comes, I'm not looking too much on the rearview mirror, otherwise I'll land in a ditch. So we are kick-starting and then moving forward. We aspire to be the best performing power station in the generation. And then we have listed a number of priorities. If you can check which we are driving. And then the bottom one is zero tolerance for corruption, because this is the order of the day, as the chair said in the Tutuga. Not in my presence, but what has been spoken about. And one of the key things which we have kick-started is to ensure that there is controls. So my role currently is to ensure that the necessary controls of running the power station are intact. We have also put a vision, because we know that the performance of Tutuga has been a concern for a long time. And therefore, that vision, if you look at it, we are saying 80-10-10 by financial year 2024-2025, which is a vision which we are driving with everybody within the power station as the order of change. So the 80 is the EAF, which means we are targeted to move from where we are now to 80, and then the 10 is the planned outages which we anticipate, and then the other 10 is the unplanned, which we also anticipate in the power station. So those are the measurements which I thought that should we meet again is what I should be judged on and the team of Tutuga should be judged on. So we have set those priorities, and obviously first we define our purpose, and our purpose is very clear as the ESKOM generation employees and as Tutuga, that we need to provide sustainable megawatt production. Simple because we have not been doing that. I think it's common knowledge that we have become the laughing stock of everybody when it comes to Tutuga. But that was the first introduction page, and it sets the scene that should you visit again, you can check the performances the trend have. I'm confident that we are going to turn things around. But currently, as it said, on the performance dashboard, I thought I should add the performance dashboard. Because you won't see at the screen, but the performance dashboard, you will see that we put in the KPIs. You have requested the issue on the EAF. You can see that our EAF, those are year-to-date figures. We are sitting at 27.46%, starting in April. So we have been running 3 units. We took a unit off on Friday due to a tube leak, which we are busy returning it. We should be on load around 3 if all goes well, which we have been very successful in bringing back units, which we take out. And then you can see that the UCLF is actually sitting at 66.77%, which is way too high. And then the target, which was given to us after calculation, was 32, which is way what we are aspiring to be. So these are all targets. These are the company given targets after people did an analysis. So that's where we are. And then the others show the normal statistics which we look at, the financial index, the HR index, environmental compliance. You can all see the rest towards that. I think I will move on to the technical performance, just to get a view where we are sitting as of April. So as of April, monthly, year to date, we are sitting at 27.37% in April, 24.3% in May, and now in June we have climbed to 34.64%, and year to date 27.46%, which is way below what is the expected norm. But if you cast your eyes on UCLF, it actually tells us where we are sitting at with breakdowns. April we're sitting at 58 and 75 and 65, and year to date 66.77, which is not really impressive figure. So our target is to reduce our UCLF and therefore build up on the EAF, which is the drive. So if I move to the next slide, just I thought that this slide now just shows us the current, so which is a glimmer of hope. I think the chair has actually said it. We were running 3 units, as I said on Friday, so we have moved to 2 units and we are bringing Unit 5. But if you look at our Unit 3 and Unit 4, you can see that our EAF has been constantly sitting at 74.64 and 81.94. That was the daily one, and the week to date, you can see that EAF was 70.12, 79.88 in terms of the 2 units. So we have started with the initiatives. One of the key initiatives is that we are focusing on partial load losses. We have 5 o'clock meetings on Fridays, on Saturday, 5 o'clock early in the morning, to just test to check on Friday, to check what we are missing, and on Mondays to start the period. So the focus is high, the employees are on board. But as the line said at the top, the GE of Generation, Mr. Numalo, has introduced what we call the Winter Challenge Drive. So we have embraced it so that we can focus and get everybody on board. Hence, we are monitoring what we are doing very closely so that we can change the performance of Tutuga. But currently, needless to say, everybody is up. At the bottom, you will see that I said station performance. So it excludes Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 6, which are on extended UCLF. So those are the key drivers which we find ourselves in. Unit 1, we had a problem with the generator. Unit 2 also similarly on the center line. And then Unit 6 was on outage. So Unit 6 is projected. I will show the outage is coming back. And as I stated, we are anticipating that we will have 6 units as we bring back these 3 units on load before we shut down Unit 5. So the next slide, if you check closely, you will note that starting from 1999. So 1999, why should I start in 1999 is because the system states and our state starts from 1999. As I said, I joined in 1995. If you look at the EAF of Tutuga in 1999 was almost 100%. But just to take you through the graph, as we go on the graph, you can see that there was constant performance in that sense of Tutuga. 2008 to 2009, I was still at Tutuga, but I moved to Senior Manager Projects and Outages. In 2010, I was at Makla. But as you see as we go, the brown part is the planned outages. So there was sometimes a narrative which says that we are not doing outages in ESKOM. Indeed, that graph depicts that we did do outages. And then since 2016, as I put in that bubble, it is just explaining that that is when we started having leadership instability, where most of the GMs were changed. And therefore, one of the factors which might have contributed to the poor performance of Tutuga was the change of GM. So we had 6 GMs during the period. If you count me in now, which is recent, I'm the 7th. But also take into consideration that in 2020 we had the pandemic, which is the COVID. So most people started working from home. So the recovery period and the turnaround became something else. So I just wanted to mention that in 2020, that was one of the things which actually happened. But you can see the red is the UCLF, and as it stands year to date at 66 point that. And then the next slide on trips is just depicting that the undesirable trips where we lose units, which puts a lot of strain on our machines and causes tube leaks and therefore result in high UCLF, started also increasing at the same time. Until year to date, we are sitting at 10. And then if I move on for just to run through, those are the outage states of the year. So I said it, Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 6 are on outage. We project to return this unit on that particular dates which I have said there. But some of them we're still doing inspection, so they might be slightly changed, maybe a day or 2 or so, because we are checking the generator, and the GE, which is our OEM, is still busy with some tests, specifically on Unit 1 and Unit 2. So we are looking at bringing back Unit 6 on the 5th of July. And then, as I said below, once we return this, we will have a total of 6 units before Unit 5 MGO end of September. So we expect that the narrative about Tutuga then will therefore change when everybody sees besides 6 lights. Currently we've got 2 lights. And then why are we here? Partly. And why are we having a slow turnaround? If we go to the next slide, which says 2030 shutdown, there was a strategy which says Tutuga is supposed to be shut down by 2030 versus a station life of 2041. So it was a decision which was made, and it was a 2030 strategy. So following that, there was significant cancellation of projects. And when people cancel projects, and then I can see that at Tutuga, one of the biggest problems was that also the people went to a stop. And then most of the things were not done. So we have got various problems coming from those projects. If you look at those, one of the critical projects was the control and instrumentation, which we had a contract in place. It had to be moved to Matimba. And then also, if you go to the next page where we start with PF, I want to put on record that as we walk the plant, you will see a lot of PF, because the PF5 project was cancelled. Therefore, we have resuscitated it now. We are busy with that kind of project. What should we do with the rest of the project? The chairperson of the board, in his wisdom, has actually made sure that we are supported with the turnaround. So we are looking at certain funds which we percent in May, and now in June we have climbed to 34.64, and year to date 27.46, which is way below what is then expected now. But if you cast your eyes on UCLF, it actually tells us where we are sitting at with breakdowns. April we're sitting at 58 and 75 and 65, and year to date 66.77, which is not really impressive figure. So our target is to reduce our UCLF and therefore build up on the AAF, which is right. If I move to the next slide, I thought that this slide now just shows us the current. So, which is a glimmer of hope, I think, which actually, as I said, we were running units, as I said, so we have moved to 2 units and I'm bringing unit 5. But if you look at our unit 3 and unit 4, you can see that our EAF has been constantly so sitting at 77.6. 4 and 81.94. That was the daily one. The week today, you can see that EAF was 70.12, 79.88, and 10.2. So we have started with the initiative. One of the key initiatives is that we have 5 meetings on Fridays, on Saturday, early in the morning, to check Friday, to check what we are missing on Monday to start the period. So the focus is high. The employees are on board. But as the line said at the top, the GE of General has introduced what is called the winter challenge. So we have embraced it so that we can get everybody on board. Hence we are monitoring what we are very close so that we can change from 2. But currently, needless to say, everybody is up. At the bottom, you will see that station performance. So it includes unit 1, unit 2, and unit 6, which are extended here. So those are the key drivers which we find ourselves in. Unit 1, we had a problem with the generator. Unit 2 also similarly centralized. And then Unit 6 was out. So Unit 6 projected out show the outage coming back. And as I said, we are anticipating that we will have 6 units we bring back. These 3 units of we shut down 5. So the next slide, if you check closely, you will note that starting from 1999. So 1999, why should I start 1999? Because the system started, our start from 1999. As I say, I joined 1995. If you look at the EAF of 1999 was almost 100%. But just take through the graph as we go on the graph, you can see that there was constant performance in that sense of 2008 to 2009. I was still Tuga. I moved to senior management outages, and 2010 I was in Mahatma. But as we go, the brown part is planned outages. So there was sometimes a narrative which says that we are not doing outages. In ESKOM, indeed, that graph depicts that we did do outages. And then since 2016, as I in that bubble, it's just extending that. That's when we started having leadership instability, where most of the GMs were changed. And therefore, one of the factors which might have contributed to the performance of Tutuwa was the change of change. So we had 6 years during the period. If you count me in now, which is recent, I'm the 7th. But also take into consideration that in 2020 we had the pandemic, which is the COVID. So most people started working from home. So the recovery period and the turnaround became something else. So I just wanted to mention that in 2020, that was one of the things which actually happened. But you can see the red is the UCLF, and as it stands here to date at 66 point that. And then the next slide on trips is just depicting that the undesirable trips where we lose units, which puts a lot of strain on our machines and causes tube leaks and therefore result in high UCLF, started also increasing at the same time. Until year to date, we are sitting at 10. And then if I move on for just to run through, those are the outage states of the year. So I said it, Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 6 are on outage. We project to return this unit on that particular dates which I have said there. But some of them we're still doing inspection, so they might be slightly changed, maybe a day or two or so, because we are checking the generator and GG, which is our OEM, is still busy with some tests, specifically on Unit 1 and Unit 2. So we are looking at bringing back Unit 6 on the 5th of July. And then, as I said below, once we return this, we will have a total of 6 units before Unit 5 MTO end September. So we expect that the narrative about Tuga then will therefore change when everybody sees the 6 lights, currently 2 lights. And then why are we here partly, and why are we having a slow turnaround? If we go to the next slide, we say 2030 shutdown. There was a strategy which says Tuga is supposed to be shut down by 2030 versus station life in 2021. So it was a decision which was made, and it was a 2030 strategy. So following that, there was significant cancellation of projects. And when people cancel projects, and then I can see that Tuga, one of the biggest problems was that also the people went to stop. And then most of the things were not done. So we have got various problems coming from those projects. If you look at those, one of the critical topics was control and instrumentation, which we had contact to the SDTP to be moved to Matimba. And then also, if you go to the next page, we start PF. I want to put on record that as we walk plan, you will see a lot of PF, because the PF5 project was cancelled. Therefore, we have resuscitated it now. We are busy with that kind of project. What should we do with the rest of the project? Chairperson Board in his wisdom has actually made sure that we are supporting the turnaround. So we are looking at certain funds which we are being supported. So most of the projects which we were put on hold are still continuing. That's why we have the confidence that we will meet our vision. If you go to the safety performance, I won't say much on this safety performance dashboard. It's just depicts the safety of people. As the plan deteriorates, so are the incidents which we had within the power station, and therefore we were just projecting that, but also the initiatives which we are doing on plant. And then the next slide will be on environmental performance. I think the Minister of Electricity has actually alluded to the fact that we have challenges when it comes to environmental related issues. So that just shows the challenges which Tuga has. But the focus is back. We have been running our 2 units within the air quality limit. We have managed to stop some of the dams which were overflowing, and then we will continue to do so. But sometimes that will need extended outage, like Unit 1, 2, and 3. We will need a half-station shutdown. So the focus there, we don't want to, like the last statement where we have been headed to NPA for criminal investigation for failure to comply with the notice. But we are making sure that we are in compliance, and currently I'm proud to say we have been compliant. then the security compliance, it just depicts what we have done. I think in most of the slides are green except regulation 79, which we are busy with, although it is set at a particular time to indicate that we need to send people for training. So we are busy with that. But as it can be seen, and I will go through it quickly towards the end, we have put in CCTV cameras, and then we have put a lot of stuff in order to apprehend and reduce the cable theft and the stealing of fuel and so on and so forth. So the next slide just talk about security capability. As you can actually see from ESKOM security personnel, we have seen at the gate, we have put in area surveillance, the drone team, 4 drones, reaction team, and then they've done an excellent job to actually arrest the stealing of oil and also the stealing of fuel. So the controls have been done quite well. SNTF, as it was mentioned, we have 44, not 24. So there is an increase in 44. I think as you enter, you see the visibility of the SNTF. I think we are here until next year, April. So I then just added, because it is crucial and important that at the end of the day, I just show in case you want to visit areas where it is. We have heard about a lot of fuel and oil stealing and trucks coming in, no controls. So those are the controls which we put in surveillance cameras, the camera traps which detect any movement and reports, and then the drone technology, the high system, if you go where you do the fuel and oil offloading, you find that with the security, with the phone, everything is technology based and is able to send signals if there is anything untoward. We have successfully, because before we offload the fuel oil tankers, we do chemical analysis. We have really apprehended some people who wanted to give us water that is fuel oil. And then they have been arrests which have done, we have had successes because and also they have decreased in terms of any chemical theft and so on around our power station. And then the last slide, I'm just talking about consequence management, what has happened to her, and how are we dealing with various elements. The GE has said that there are certain people, when the Minister of Electricity always says, those who are not keen to improve the power station will fall through the net. So we have a lot of disciplinary actions which are being done, and then you will note that there are certain cases where people have been dismissed. Where there is sufficient evidence, obviously people are scared sometimes to go and witnesses. As I now, we have the case in CMA, and then they're trying to get a witness, but the witness unfortunately was shot at, and lucky enough they survived, but they are not so traumatized to go there. So that is the nature of the business which we are in, whether it is related to the case or not, but it is very coincidental that such things happen. So it is becoming difficult in certain cases to actually go and prove that we have sufficient evidence to that. So when we discipline, we fire and it goes to CCMA, and then they try our best to ensure that we go through the case. And then on page 24, those are the criminal cases which we have registered, which are commercial crime court, and also the standard court. So yes, consequence management is happening, and success In most of the cases, we were successful. In some of the cases where witnesses are scared to witness, we are not. In terms of maybe the last, which is not on the slide, and you have, Chair, you alluded to it in terms of the bulletproof and so on. Currently, I'm not in that zone, having been working for Tutuka for a long time. Having stayed in Standerton for a long time, I'm well known in Standerton. I am not in Standerton encountered currently any of the cartels that have been used. So time will tell how it maps out, but my drive is just to get a performance. And from what I heard from the community and from everybody, they are keen to get to Tutuka because Tutuka is the hub of Standerton. And if it was there for Standerton, I think the chair.
Thank you very much. Zuid, are you done, Chair?
Yeah, Chair, I think we have done this one. We are talking about the
Right.
this one is done. Questions? Honourable Commitment, just go for that.
Chair, do you want me to run through all the questions, or do you want me to ask them?
I think let's run through all of them. We also still have a site visit. If anything, we'll come back for a second round of questions. Please just note all her questions and then we'll respond to them.
So, in terms of the EAF, looking at 1999 to 2024, now the Minister did say that he wanted to have all the units operational by April 23. Clearly that isn't happening.
Mike, I think something.
Sorry, I thought I had it on. Okay, so the Minister of Electricity is recorded as saying that he wanted all the units operational by April 23. Now, obviously, that isn't going to happen. So, 2 units are operational. One is carrying on an outage. But in terms of 1, 2, and 6, we've talked about the time period for bringing them back up. How long have they been out? If you have clarity on that. I mean, the EAF is clearly just essentially drop off a cliff and has been some time, so that really is problematic. In terms of where you are now, there might also be more general question in terms of generation. With the generation going up to about 60%, has there been a reduction in maintenance in the last 6 months from what was previously planned? So my question is really saying, has maintenance been sacrificed for the benefit of having short-term generation? What is that plan going forward? There have been serious allegations of sabotage happening at a particular power station. Has any progress been made in terms of investigating that or any arrests in that regard? I mean, when seen in the report that there was a cable, I think it was cut, there was tubing, there were very serious issues there. Then also, why have there been 6 GMs in 7 years? Between 2016 and 2023, why has there been such a high turnover in that regard? Looking at the matters that were cancelled, the stacker refurbishment, it says there will be a problem with providing coal if there are 4 units and above. But going by the timelines provided by Mr. Moyo, it looks like the plan is to have 4 to 5 units running by August. What is going to happen in a case like that? I mean, is there going to be a problem with coal supply? On the issue of coal, you talked about the security taken, measures taken on site. What is happening with the quality of the coal coming in? Where is the coal coming from? Are you finding that there are problems there? We've heard previously about issues with coal being swapped out, coal having rocks placed in it. What is happening in that regard? Then a question that might be more difficult to answer and probably really a SAPS question. The Middleburg Specialised Commercial Crimes Court. Obviously the timelines of courts are their own. But that particular court is when seeing undue delays. How long is the roll? Because there are no timelines with regards to the criminal matters. So just maybe a heads up on what is happening there. And then I've just got a couple of questions, Chairman of the Board, because as you say, we won't be seeing you. One that I really have a concern about is I saw an interview with yourself, I think about 2 weeks ago, talking about political leadership having been potentially better at having a CEO who is no longer there. Obviously there's currently an acting CEO and one is interviewing. But is it not potentially conflict of interest to hold that while interviewing for a new Chief Operating Officer? And then also, and I know this is nothing to do with the board, the issue of the Chinese offering to assist with ESKOM going forward. We know that the Minister and Mr. Kasim were recently in China, and we have asked questions about that. What is happening with that potential collaboration? Because I see that there are now reports of China making serious offers to assist with ESKOM. And are we looking at a situation where potentially there's going to be commercial engagement in that regard? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Questions? Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honourable Member Van Minen. So maybe let me start with the, I guess, most straightforward one. On China, we haven't received any formal feedback from the Minister of Public Enterprises that would suggest that there's anything of a commercial nature that will be coming our way. There's nothing on the board's table right now. Through you, Chair, can I just clarify the conflict of interest matter on the GCE? I didn't get the question clearly.
Sorry. My concern is I recently saw comments by yourself regarding your view that having political leadership seems to have been more productive than having had a chief operating officer. And I'm just inquiring, if there's now an acting one, interviews are happening with the board. Is that not a conflict of interest?
Thank you, Chair. I really think there may have been a misunderstanding. I didn't say that in the interview. What I spoke about was the appointment of the new generation executive. The fact that we felt that since his appointment, and I really wish Zwide could do the presentation you did last time when we did the update to the shareholder, because I think it just makes it crystal clear that when an organization such as ESKOM reverts to a structure that is universally applicable to any utility anywhere in the world, which is the structure we have, the structure we've always had, where you've got the group chief executive's role, you've got each divisional head, generation, transmission, distribution, having direct access without another tier in between to that office. And then when you have the generation executive ensuring that in his own span of control, he flattens the structure so that Bruce Moyo, anybody running Letabo, running any power station have got direct access to him. You then see the results that we see, because there's more hands-on involvement on the part of the generation executive. What I said in that interview, I'm assuming we're talking about the interview with Bloomberg, what I said in that interview was that historically, I personally, before my time, never understood why it was necessary to have a chief operating officer. And what I had said there is that as a board, we took a view that by natural attrition, we would let the chief operating officer retire, which happened in April when we appointed Mr. Nguman, and not have to go through the cost processes of having to pay someone to leave early or the like. It also makes both business and commercial sense that if you know that you're going to be separating some of the businesses into different subsidiaries, as we're doing currently with the transmission company SOC, it doesn't make sense to then still maintain this bloated, top-heavy executive structure. You already rather operate in that virtual mode of you have ESKOM SOC Holdings Board as what we have. You're going to have 3 divisional boards over time, and therefore let's start inculcating the organization practices to go in that direction. Lastly, what I had said was the fact that the Group Chief Executive, Acting Group Chief Executive, together with our Chair of the Investment Finance Committee, gave us feedback last week actually in the board that we are now going to have to prepare for an engagement with a number of key lenders, because historically when we borrowed money or engaged in bonds as ESKOM, we did so off a holding company balance sheet. And so now you're going to have to go into renegotiating some of the covenants so that you transfer what needs to be transferred to each subsidiary. So I hope that clarifies it, but I did engage around the sphere of political leadership. And if that clears it, then I think the rest of the questions are operational. I'll invite both Mrs. Moyo and Numalo to deal with those.
Okay. Honorable Chair, let me start with the leadership ones as well. The one on the changes on the GMs. I think the first GM was a natural attrition. Someone left the company, and then we brought, that was between 2017, that one. And then I think the number of them happened from 2020. I think like Mr. Moyo was saying, I think that's what we see as one of the key issues, because when you change this as well, you need to mesh whoever you're bringing in to the top of the power station that you are bringing them. And so, yeah, that's what has happened now, and we have seen that it has created a lot of instability, because if you look at from 2020 to now, almost 4 power station managers. So someone might have left, because if you are 6 months in the power station, unless you are a seasoned person like Bruce, that you know what you're coming to do, you will still want to understand the culture, the plant itself, and then if there's changes as well, then it creates a ripple effect. So that's something that we are also trying to do. I think the chair talked about what we have done in generation as we came in as well, because I realized that some of the key people that I experienced were sitting in the clusters, so I then decided to deploy them back so that we don't run around everywhere. We create stabilities in the power station, because these are the people that I know they know what needs to be done in the power station. They understand what should happen. So that also assists me. We've done the same thing in the coal space, and then just to make sure that leadership is stabilized as well. And then also this issue of power station managers talking to me directly, it's also assisting with the culture that we want to see. Because most of them, they know what is the generation culture. Because at some point then you find that when things happen, the employees start panicking. You know, if I panic, it relates to the staff, and then we end up running around not doing the right thing. So that was one thing that we are trying now to address with some of the leaders that we have put back. And then the question that I want to maybe is a little bit, sorry, but I think the thrust of that question is why. So you've had 6 individuals. The first one is the natural attrition, right? They left. Number 5 in this sequence is the one that's been topical, right? So I think that's where it is. Why was each individual leaving? I get the high-level summation, but it's a high turnover. I think that's where Honorable Van Mille was. Yeah. I think, Chair, it also depends on once leadership have seen that maybe they want to make those changes, you know, that was seen as something that maybe because that's when the performance starting to slide, and then people will feel that maybe it's better to remove either Jabu or is it Marcus or whoever is there. I think the last incumbent, I was told, because before I came in, he was moved out as well, but it was on his own request as well, based on the other issues that we said, safety concerns and all of those things. But the leadership at the time, they felt that maybe it's better to bring someone else. But I think then, maybe in hindsight, we did it too frequently, and it shouldn't happen in the power station like that.
I think that answers it was a leadership decision to move them, because I think that's what we needed to gauge, what caused this movement. I'm just sorry to, right?
Maybe a small addition. I think maybe to the extent that the committee will interact with our erstwhile COO, it will get clearer in terms of what informed his choices. But for instance, if you look at Mr. Numalo, he was sidelined. There's no polite way of putting it. He was sidelined and shoved off into another corner, and in our engagements with him through our BOPC, we actually realized the country's suffering, we're suffering, but actually here's someone who's capable, but has been kind of shoved to the side. There used to be a culture that maybe Mr. Numalo might be feeling put on the spot. There used to be a culture where if you differ with the powers that be, you shunt it aside. And so sadly, that culture brought us to the 3-year period that we've seen of decline in energy availability factor. I mean, there's no magic wand. As a leader, you've got to walk the floor, especially if you're in generations regularly. That day when we met in Parliament, he had spent the night literally at Koeberg. As late as 2 a.m. he was on a call with all the power station managers. You remember that time there was a threat, one of the stations, we almost lost it completely. And they recovered it overnight up to the early hours of 2 a.m. So it is the commitment that the leader shows the team. You know, they say leader shows the way, demonstrates the way. That's the leader we found. And the confidence that the board got was what we saw with how he turned around the ERI division, which was where he was kind of shunted around. There was a problem child, he turned it around, fixed it, fixed the compliance culture. We talk a lot about tube leaks and boiler leaks. He knows it all, because at ERI they've got all the know-how on how to fix. We don't have to get foreign support from anybody. So I think the biggest lesson in this is at a group level, let's let people do what they're supposed to do and get out of the way for them to do what they should be doing on the shop floor.
Thank you. I think that's helpful very, very much. Right, so you can continue the...
Yeah. Chair, before I hand over to Bruce, let me deal with the point that Honorable Van Minen raised about the improved availability, to say, did we not do maintenance? I think it's a valid question, and the nature of our generation is that in the winter month our maintenance is always goes down, and then in our media statement that we've issued in May, we did say that we were going to go to just below 3,000 megawatts. So, but if you look at even this past weekend, we also were above 6,000 megawatts. So we have not cut down on the maintenance. You recall that in April, May, we were sitting at about 53%. That's when then we started to bring the units back. That's a move of 7%. It has given us this envelope that we are able now to reduce this impact of this load shedding as well. And I think part of that improvement came from this very same power station here. You've seen the numbers that to the units on individual. One is running over 80%. And that's what we want to see. That's what I've said to Bruce. You need to make sure it happens. If we can do it with one unit on the same power station, we can do it with the rest. I mean, the other one is at 75% as well. So as they come back, the bit now we've got these units that are down, but I'm quite confident now with the team that we have as well, because one of the things that we have done, we've also tried to remove these barriers or layers within the ESKOM fleet, where ERI project team seems to be working in silos, that wherever there is a need for support, now all of these people report to me. So we can make sure that we deploy the right people at the right stations as well, so to make sure that Bruce does not worry about what I've said, that the job of the police must be done by the police. I don't want him to be chasing trucks. And on his trucks, he must chase them inside here. He must control, like what he's saying. He must account. But whenever there is crime committed, his job is to make sure his crime is reported with all relevant information. Then he must come focus on running the power station. That is really his job, because sometimes we seem to have missed that point as well, that the team, and I think that maybe it's creating some of the issues. Yeah, Bruce, maybe you can just touch on the other points that were raised there, and I will come in if there is some gaps.
Thank you. In terms of the outages, how long has the unit's been off? I'm trying to figure out certain dates, but when I came in, I asked the same question. Unit 6 has been off for more than 200 and give or take 260 days. So that unit is the one which we are saying we are bringing in July. You will have noted that one of our priorities is to successfully execute outages. So we have got various problems during the outages. Unfortunately, when I came in and we started zooming on accountability and why we have delayed outages, the outage manager unfortunately resigned with immediate effect. So I am chasing in terms of what could have happened. And then the Unit 2-1, which is back in August, it was sometime around the 7th of June, where we had a mishap where people went to the wrong plant and they damaged the center line. So we are working tirelessly to bring that unit, 1st of August, and then Unit 1 was a generator issue, around the 4th month. So we are working there. So we've got various teams, but it's an in-house team, which is ERI, of course working in conjunction with the OEM. But the outages, we admit, that's why it's one of my priorities, that we are not executing them very, very well. So we have started putting strategies, turnaround strategies in place. I think Mr. Numalo covered the outage, the maintenance effectively. But then from where I am, it will be hearsay. But I've heard the terminology of sabotage, which you have asked, whether there has been sabotage and what has happened and what have we done about it. I think I've listed some of the number of cases. Of course, it becomes sometimes a tendency with everyone that when things are going bad, you find the best excuse to put on the table. But where there has been sabotage and it has been proven, the necessary action has really been taken. But without going further on that, power stations I've run, I've not really emphasized sabotage, because it's difficult sometimes to prove that there was sabotage. So except if it's individual cases which one can zoom in, but currently there's not much. I think we have heard about the pyro protection, which was told here about sabotage, only to find out that it was a genuine plant problem. So each case has got its own merit. So yes, that was that. I think the six GMs have been adequately vented upon. But I will just add that in every change, when people call it, when a regime changes, there are certain people who can be labeled to say that one belonged to that camp. So we have seen it sometimes happening, and I guess that previously some of the GMs found themselves in a wanting position because it's suspected that they belong somewhere. But in a professional environment, we don't look at it that way. The stacker refurbishment, as you mentioned, is one of the projects which have been cancelled. So what we are currently doing is we are trying to resolve that problem. As we enter now, we have realized that that is one of the biggest problems. We have gone out to the OEM to assist us refurbish it, and then also we do what we call piggybacking, which means instead of using stacking on the front stack, we will stack on the back stack. Obviously, there are environmental concerns which are busy, like the lining of the area where we have got that. But we have it in hand. It's something which people held their hands and left it, but we are picking it up very, very closely. In terms of who supplies that, it's called is New Denmark. It's New Denmark. It has been taken now by Sereti. And what I have done since I've arrived, I've engaged with the mine personnel, and then we have spoken about the quality of coal, because sometimes the forecast really moves out. But from previous experience, yes, we did get stones, but it was not because somebody was throwing stones. Because sometimes in a mining environment, you hit dikes, so you get stones. But we have got areas where we've got screens, which needs to be completely managed and serviced. So that is the focus where sometimes we lose those controls. So I've engaged with the mine. We'll continuously have mine meetings where we really zoom on the coal quality. In terms of, we are currently finishing a road where we will have sufficient coal which is coming in. We have discussed the issue of the stockyard, because also it has been neglected, where we will fix the feeders and all those. So every plan is in place for that. I think that those were the questions which were except the criminal courts.
We are going to the subs now. There was an issue raised around the courts, the court role and the turnaround time.
Unfortunately, Chair, I was out for a minute, so I missed that question. But maybe General Zulu can deal with it, but we'll deal with the issue of sabotage after that.
Thank you, Sir Chairperson. I can just do the follow-up on that if they don't have the specific court dates, whether so you can see the turnaround time in regards to the cases from Medley Commission approach.
Maybe add, if I may, Chair.
She says she will give a report on the turnaround dates on each court date and where that matter is. All right, that's fine. Sir?
A particular point I would add to that.
Still your mic.
Oh, I
Apologize. I'm always guilty of that. Just maybe on the, there was for a period, I think the period before we started with the priority committee, there was, the dockets were all over the place at individual. So we did centralize all the dockets now to a central place. So we have dockets at the Hawks, we have dockets at our general detectives. We've increased our detective capacity, focusing on this to 22 and 21 and 9 from the Hawks to make it a team of 30, focusing specifically on this. And that ESKOM has been kind to give us accommodation at the academy. So our detective team is located there, and teams. There's a team of 8 working in Emalahleni to deal with the specific issues. So that has seen an improvement. We've also meeting quite closely with HR to look at some of the disciplinary matters about the possibility of converting that to criminal cases. But we are still in the review process in terms of that. On the sabotage, with ESKOM, we have now concluded that since February we haven't had any incidents of sabotage, as defined even in the broad definition of sabotage. In our legislative definition, definitely not. So clearly for us, there's been an improvement in the work. Part of our area of focus now is to look specifically at the technical reports, because we are finding that we're at least looking whether there's patterns in terms of who is responsible for the negligence. There might be individuals that all the time should, because the script is fairly clear, that a person should be doing the following things, but he doesn't. So it's part of our investigation is to look at patterns to determine if there's particular individuals, and then use that as a method to profile going forward. But between ESKOM and ourselves, we've been meeting regularly, so there's been an improvement in the relations and access to information. That has been fairly good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, Honorable Samia.
Thank you very much.
Your mic.
Yes. Chairperson of the board and any board members present, the management and the sisters led by Mr. Ngumalo and the team, colleagues. I think one pertinent issue has been, I think, Honorable Famino has latched on it, which deals with the effects of the quality of coal. And in terms of the answering that question, you have made indications that you are negotiating with mines which are specific to that fact. There is a policy which is followed by ESKOM in contracting on coal. It's called pay. This thing, take or pay, which is handsomely working well for the mines. And then if there are issues that relate to coal quality, why do you have to negotiate when someone contracted with clear specifications fails to meet such specifications? When at times of use or receipt, you have to pay, even if that coal remains in your coal yard for some time. And that's what I see as a critical matter of management, that when you contract with individuals, wherever they come from, you have a specification they have to meet at all times. It becomes their own responsibility at all times. If they fail to do so, unfairly, you'd have to be labeled as of failure, one way or the other, whilst your failure is secondary to the primary source, which in this sense is code. So you are weakening your own ability to somewhat both project and actually pull all those you're contracted to meet the firm your own prescribed standards. So it might be one of those things. The second area, which is aligned to what the chair has referred to, was on the appointment of the head of generation, which is Mr. Ngumalo. Sometime here, I think we had a visit. It was not here, it was Kusile, where we painstakingly, with identification of a sense of instability, even on those who manage projects, because once you have projects under construction and you have instability on the highest positions which relate to such projects, it becomes a problem. They themselves, I think Mr. Ngumalo was present in that meeting. At that time, he was the head of something else, companies, whatever it is. Yeah, something like that. We dealt with that matter, and then we highlighted it even at the board level. Unfortunately, the COO was not present, but the chairperson of the board was present in that meeting, and we went to the board. The COO was not present, and we highlighted that matter as a very uncomfortable, unacceptable situation, and that is a serious causal factor in unfinishing the work properly
insecurity in as far as the quality of that work which is being done in that instance. It was not only Kusile, it was the same thing with the other site of construction, where you have seen changes made on those who are working. We always meet new people when we get there. And unfortunately, at the time, there was absolutely no ear to get to that. So I had a side discussion with him at that time. And that side discussion, he himself reluctantly identified critical areas of failure. I'm happy that you brought him back. And I would pray that you should remember that conversation. And through that conversation, some of the things being applied, one of them, I think that's what you have applied here, which is a nature of improvement, taking people confidently into their own positions, and they should feel well off in terms of being appreciated. You see, Mr. Opelhoza, who has been the CEO there, who has retired now, he might have been of service to others, but he has been of disservice in as far as ESKOM is concerned. You see, and I personally raised that matter when we had our last ESKOM visit as COPA. You see, so I'm still loud at that because it does not serve well. So I'm happy when you say you have killed that position. You see, the COO position, if you are indicating to it, because the value to it is absolutely somewhat not felt by the institution one way or the other. You know, you can't, as a person who was responsible for generation of this huge entity, today you see this head, tomorrow you have that one, the other day you have that one, and the outcome is what we have tasted. So I really, you see, appreciate the fact that you have seen that yourselves as a board, and you have acted promptly into it, and now those results are getting into this plant here. Well, Chair, there are two areas which I would want to get to in terms of this presentation. Though you say you lost one unit on Friday, one unit on Friday was lost, and we're here in June, or still in June. We are experiencing 34.6 in terms of EAF against what you have started with in terms of April, which is showing a level of appreciated growth. Is this regardless of these kinds of experiences which are highlighting to us, and then it weighs into the capacity levels of your units? What is the plus in terms of capacity levels, in terms of the contribution to EAF one way or the other, and something which I think as the management of the station here should somewhat probably want to appreciate, and if you could just emphasize such a point as to us. You have answered the question that relates to the restoration of work environment in as far as the 3 units that have been out for quite long, and when do you want to turn them back one way or the other. This thing of shutdown versus station life, you say to us you had to withdraw certain projects, consciously move away from certain projects. And that movement away from certain projects contributed negatively into the ability of the station. Now you have taken a position to somewhat get back into some of those projects. Then you are realizing that there's a peak in terms of performance of the station. What message are you sending to us? I'm sending you are reversing the stance which you have taken, you see, of the withdrawal, and therefore you are stepping up towards what is being envisaged in terms of the life towards 2041, as it is somewhat shown as a base in your strategic point, and where do we sit on that? Or you are doing so that there could be even a benefit even beyond 2041 in as far as this actual performance which you see now, if you are stuck on the projects which you have somewhat withdrawn. And then the last area, Chair, is the area that relates to your employees, the employees here, versus the presence of the army. The army are around this plant, while maybe there's other things that we can't see. But in the main, combat ready outside this plant. Is that an indication that in the main, pressures are outside this plant, or they are more outside than internal, and therefore they ought to be matched with that veracity as we see currently? And in your own experience, you have highlighted your own, I wouldn't want you to emphasize it that much. It's itself is a safety matter in a way, but looking into what is taking place here, and therefore your plan, which ought to be matched by the fact that if they go away, what will happen? Are these improvements because of their own presence, or are these improvements because of your combined presence and their presence, and therefore the work ethic which has improved the ethos in terms of the performance of your employees here, and in terms of value and their own commitment? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can we get responses to that, Honorable Mkondo? Stand by.
I think you can take the questions.
Yeah, Honorable Chair, let me start. Honorable Somyo, thank you for those questions.
Sorry, I'm going to ask that we appointed in brief, because there's still some 4 or 5 members that must ask questions, and still the site visit.
Thanks, sir. I think maybe let me deal with the call quality as also applies broadly to the organizations. Luckily here at Tutuka we've got a dedicated mine that is a new Denmark, so then the opportunities of changing that becomes a bit less on that. Only on the way to get tracking. I think we did share with Copper as well the processes that were put as well in the mines. And then one of the points you raised regarding the ownership of the coal quality to the station taken back to the mine. We have already done that, because we also used to have our own transporting trucks from the mines to the station. Now we are only saying to the mines, you are responsible up to the station gate for the quality. So with our teams in primary energy, we have done that, and that's one area where I've also returned the experienced person there as well, who was there before as well. So, yeah, and then let me just deal with the issue of the strategy in terms of the shutdown. Obviously, when we found out as well, one of the reasons advanced to me shutting the station earlier was that it's not performing. So, Chair, I must apologize. I haven't been to board with this renewed strategy, but what I said to Bruce, we've got a plan to run. we can't be a reason to say because the plant is not running correctly when we must shut it early. So that's where I am currently with this thing to say the country is suffering, we must do what we need to do. So, but we'll go back to board and say the station is actually has got a 50-year life. We can't use the excuse of not performing to shut it early. So that's something that I must apologize to Chair. I haven't been to BOPC with the revised, but that's what we're going to be tabling to board. See, this plant must run. It is one of our newer plant. It needs to run to take us out of the current difficulty we are facing. Bruce, I'm not sure what to talk about the army because you are experiencing that. And then, I think, Bruce, if you can just deal with the Unit 5 issue. It came down, it's just a true break. It's part of the normal things that you will experience, but they are bringing it back now. They are coming back to 3 this afternoon. So it's one of those things that we allow on that 10% he talked about. But what is expected is that when they are running now the 3 units, it should be 50% of the station. So the AF should be closer to that. That's why he said they are working on the partials. And I've seen that at least now they are running closer to 500 per unit. So that is really what we are saying to see. Those that are running, they must run them efficiently as well. So Bruce, maybe touch on the issue of the armies in terms of your experience.
Yes, in terms of the SANDF, obviously every help which we get goes a long way. And then we have seen a complete change in terms of the approach, be it externally, because they know that we are indeed have protection which is there. We normally would, on a normal day, have blockages around the gates and with people really driving the employment. But we have seen that as a decrease in that. Internally, yes, we have got the security.
Not just once. What do you mean by blockages?
Or at the gate, like normally we have seen that people from the community want jobs and things like that. They end up with the social instability, blocking the gates, demanding employment, specifically during the course of an outage or so. But we have seen that they are more now far from doing that since the introduction of the army. Internally, of course, we have seen also, although there are other controls, a very remarkable decrease because there are people who are visibly patrolling the whole of the power station. So it is an added benefit. The question that should they move away, we have really put in a lot of controls in place, and then the camera systems and the reaction teams which we have. So yes, thanks.
Chair of Board, maybe if we can just make this request. I'm just triggered, and I'm sure colleagues, we can agree on this. What Zwida is saying, the mine closures. Zwida says shutting down because it's not performing, yet there's a mine to run. That dichotomy says something far bigger for us. That at some particular level, there's a willy-nilly approach. I mean, should I venture into speculation? Run it down so you can close it down. I can arrive at that conclusion. So maybe, Chair, I'm sure you're already doing this, but to emphasize it, an assessment on decisions taken around power station closures, whether they are rational in their entirety, because we may find that the merits of keeping it open far outweigh the demerits. Yet it's with ease to say, I know we shut down. Zwida is making I know it's coming to board, I'm not venturing into a board discussion, but emphasizing, saying there's a mine to run. And if there's anything possible to be done, then we should do it insofar as making sure that the mine run. I'm just, the station rather to run. So I'm just, for me, it opens another conversation about the state of health of decisions that have been taken at ESKOM. But go to board and they will take a decision. I'm merely the point that you are second language. Okay, Honorable Mkondo.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning to you, Chair. Honorable members, the chairperson of the board and his team, our colleagues from SAPS, and from Parliament. Chair, obviously there is a new arrangement here between the board and the management of Tutuga. My first question, Chair, will be, my understanding is that Mr. Ngumalo and Mr. Moyo are on acting capacity. Or they are full-time. So if they are full-time, Chair, have they been vetted? If they are full-time, was vetting at least with them done? The Chair, we are having a list of misconducts here. Those who are undergoing internal disciplinary processes, others have been handed over to SAPS. It's quite understandable. But it's a long list, Chair, that makes one to wonder, how does it happen that the person who all of these people did these things under his watch is not even mentioned? It's not mentioned. He was here, a group CEO, earning millions of taxpayers' money. All of these wrong things happened under his watch. But there is nothing about him. It's only his subordinates that have done wrong things under his watch, meaning he couldn't even prevent those things to happen. Only his subordinates had a potential to do all these things. Maybe, Chair, we really have to look at that as to the money that was used to pay the former CEO. Was it worth it? What did the country benefit from the salaries that were given to him? Chair, with the list of these officials, are there any intended lifestyle audits, including that of, I'm referring this to the board now, including that of the former CEO? Are there any lifestyle audits intended to get to the bottom of what were these employees benefiting from their illegal activities in the plant? I think I'm done, Chair. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Vetting, lifestyle audit, GCE.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Member Honorable Mayor Constance Mkonto. Remember that the two executives that are sitting to my right and left are not new outside-in appointments. They were already existing employees of ESKOM, and they would already have been vetted in line with our standards vetting of ESKOM employees. So in both instances, I think Mr. Moyo might have been more a bit of a lateral move from one area to another. But in terms of Zweden, it's actually, let's call it a promotion appointment type in terms of the depth of responsibilities now versus where he was taken out of the ERI. So we would not have had to vet them afresh as existing vetting that they would have gone through as existing ESKOM employees. So that is the first matter. The DPE has got guidelines for SOCs to conduct ongoing lifestyle audits for executives and so forth. On the board side, we're busy as we approach year-end. Normally every year-end when you audit, close your audit, we are working with Deloitte. As I speak to you now, Deloitte, the audit firm, is busy conducting a fraud and risk assessment of the whole of ESKOM, which will come out in their year-end audit in terms of any findings they may have found as part of the standard manner of going about audits. What I asked them to do for us is to look at a benchmark, because I always make this point that often we forget that as an ESKOM, we're not competing with from a peer group point of view. We're not competing with the mining house next door or Sasol's and so on. We're competing with other utilities elsewhere in the world in terms of best practice of keeping the lights on, best practice of running utility. And so with the benefit of them being a global firm, and we said they must please look in other countries elsewhere in the world whether there's any best practice we can learn in terms of ongoing combating of fraud risk and corruption in utilities. So we look forward to that report coming out in the year-end audit. One of the law firms is doing another one in terms of an equivalent of, if you like, a review due diligence on the whole of ESKOM in terms of all issues of legal compliance. So you go to CIPC, you go to a whole host of areas of touch points where you're able to pick up if there's any red flags of legal compliance within ESKOM. And that report will also be included in the integrated annual report at the end of this year reporting. In other words, I'm talking about the year that has ended, 31st March, we're closing the audit now. So when we publish the integrated annual report after going through AGM with the shareholder, these things will become public knowledge in the integrated annual report. The third thing that we're planning as a board, I guess borrowing from some of the best practices in the financial services sector. In the financial services sector, board members get second checked, if I can use that word, by both audit firms. There's a standard questionnaire that is used, and by the SARB as the regulator. So we're going to borrow some best practice there, where you do what we call related party declarations and auditing. So as chair of the board, the question that I'll be asked is things like, do I have any relatives or members of close family that do business with ESKOM? So that you declare those, if there are, although the best practice is to not have your partner, brother, sister, son, daughter do business with ESKOM, because that's just a red flag from an ethics compliance. So all these things we're doing as part of ongoing setting the right tone at the top. So it will be the board, it will be the EXCO, and then it will cascade throughout the organization. So from a exposure of any lifestyle undercurrents that may be triggered by people receiving payments or whatever from wherever, or benefiting from tenders at ESKOM, those kind of things will come up if they exist. In terms of the GCE, the former GCE, and whether there's any misdemeanors to kind of pursue him for, what we want to do is to do, and I've said this also in the public space, is to do a sense of lessons learned from all this. Because what does this mean for governance lessons for ESKOM? What does this mean, including all those things in the book? Because in my view, you've got a former executive director of a company that by virtue of the role they occupy had access to critical information, not just about ESKOM, but about the country. And so you've got to go about it in a systematic way and not be seen to be on a witch hunt, but really on a governance tracking trail of what went wrong, what do we prevent next time. But I can say to you, honorable members, in my capacity as a former chair of SAFCOL, in 2018 we were appointed as a new board at SAFCOL. When we arrived, we found a whole host of challenges of poor governance emanating from the difficult era of state capture. One of the things that board had to consider was whether do you pursue some of the former directors and charge them as delinquents and so forth. We learned both as the board and perhaps the shareholder in that context that our current CPIC regulations fall short. There's a point where you just can't do it. The cost of pursuing that, really, because they're no longer your employees, they're no longer directors, the cost of pursuing that relative to the cost of drawing lessons and rather managing the organization differently far outweighs just rather learning and doing things better. So I'm not preempting what the governance review will tell us, but there's a lesson learned that I can share from another SOC that you end up just chasing posts in terms of what you're capable to truly bring people to the book. But we've seen, though, here at ESKOM, there are other instances, as you know, there's two former CEOs, former CFO and others that are in the courts. There are instances where if there's formidable evidence of criminal wrongdoing, that you're able to charge and pursue people post facto. So we'll be guided by all these best practices. But our intention is to do right by ESKOM and by South Africans and ensure that we truly clean up ESKOM. As you can see, we're doing, in my book, well now with turning around operations. We must now do the same elsewhere and continue uprooting and outrooting any wrongdoing. Thanks, Chair. Perhaps, I don't know if there's anything that's operational there as we did. It seems all governments.
Yeah, no change, all governments, I think you've covered it. Thanks.
So covered. Honorable Bucas.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the chairperson and this team for the presentation. Chair, listening to the presentation, it actually feels like it's not a presentation from ESKOM. I, however, appreciate the improvement. Chair, I want to start with Mr. Moyer's vision, or ESKOM's vision, to have our station performing at a world-class performance and to achieve a combined performance of 8, 10, 10, and what, by the end of 2024, 2025 financial year. And my first question will be, how are you planning to do that? And was there a process of engaging with your managers? For example, if we look at what happened, my question is like, did you ever engage with your chief procurement officer on why did certain things happen, what happened, and how does it happen? You know, Chair, and every time I say that I'm from a very, very rural area, and people are watching what we are doing, and the only thing that they want to know is what will happen. And now I'm looking at the vision, and something must be happen, and something will happen, Mr. Moyo. So, are you having programs in place for employees for moral support, or are you dealing with the officials who was not necessarily part of what has happened? Is there such a program in place? And are you still experienced that people are leaving the organization, especially your technical people? And are you linking the performance of units to the performance of individuals? Then, Chair, what is the cost impact of cases closed due to insufficient evidence? Looking at the security measures,
I'm asking myself, what is the impact on the cost for the security measures that you are putting in now, and why was it not there? Was it due to budget constraints, or what was the problem then? Yeah, from 2014, the leadership instability started, but at the same time there was an increase in the number of trips, resulted in the high fuel oil burn, resulting in high costs. Was there at any point a discussion or a plan on how to deal with that at that time, 2014? Because I think that was leading to where we are now. Not necessarily the change in GMs, but the situation at that time. Okay, no, my last one was on the Unit 5. So thank you, Chair. I'm done.
All right, thank you very much. Can we get responses to that? Honourable Suwaya, stand by.
Okay. Yeah, in terms of the vision, of course, a lot has happened. As I said, I started on the 8th of May. But I have been working I did run a power station, Makla Power Station, which in 2017 became the best in terms of technical performance within generation. So the methodology I'm applying, obviously in my previous life as a cluster GM, I was involved with the support and turnaround of power stations like Majuba, like the ones in the cluster where Camden had gone to 0 units. So one of the key things which I'm currently doing is I'm starting first with who and then what. So I'm assessing the capability of my direct reports, which is an ongoing exercise. I've introduced also the initiatives, as I said, in terms of direct focus, in terms of the partial load losses, which are a contribution to the performance of this power station, hence the 5 o'clock meeting and on Mondays and Thursday. Secondly, I have also introduced a focus on the outages which are currently running. Check my diary, we've got a 7 o'clock feedback meeting every day in the evening. We try to get the whole team's focus and therefore drive that. We have also had an engagement with the MP and S-bands where we sit and discuss all the focus groups which we have. So we've put the focus groups in place. Coming to Tutuga, I came up with a team of highly competent individuals. There are about 5 of them, whom we have gone around assisting power stations who are very knowledgeable. In terms of the engagement with the procurement, chief procurement officer of what has happened, what we have done is that every transaction, every contract, the highly experienced people are now revisiting at what we have, because we have seen a lack of performance from some of the contractors. So that has happened. We have also recalled all the procurement people who are still working from home back to the power station. So those are the initiatives which we have done. And we have previously, when I got here, the HR manager and the finance manager were working from town. I've recalled them back to the power station because the focus which we are doing is in terms of focusing on the people as well. So that has already happened. So within a short space of time, we have moved the mileages. And then the performance talk for ourselves. We also, in line with what the organization is saying, started recognizing. Previous week, we celebrated just that marginal change in performance. So everybody has seen and heard about the new performance drive, and we are trying to create excitement within the people. And then in terms of experience, we had a tool or a strategy called crowdsourcing. So we have been authorized now to bring back as many people who has been working here, who are now willing to come back. So we have made inroads. For example, the guy I found here was the person who employed me in 1995. So he is with us and then assisting, although he's 67 years old. He knows the power station is called Erkis Birma. He's the one who appointed me. So we are bringing back the old hands and making sure that they guide the young people. I think that was all, if I did it very fast. Security measures, oh, was it that? No. Pardon? Or the cost impact of the security measures. I will be lying that I have actually did evaluate that. We are on a planning phase in terms of what impacts performance financially, but we haven't assessed the cost. We are grateful to have the security which we have, but yeah, we haven't. Thanks.
Baie dankie. Agbare Flukus. Agbare Siwea.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to the chairperson of the board and your team. Just taking it from what Mr. Moyo you have said, sometimes to win as a team, as a leader, you need to give confidence to those who are lower in the institution so that everybody can pull in the same direction. And I think to a larger extent, employees of ESKOM countrywide felt that they are not part of the solution in relation to providing electricity to our people. So you must keep it up. You must have firm capacity within, and you must promote it where it's possible. It's going to assist us to find a lasting solution in providing sustainable electricity for our people. I've got 3 questions. The first one, where is the general manager responsible for security? Mrs. Advocate Karen Pillay, I see here you just wrote, not available. Sometimes when I read things, I read them with a pinch of salt. Not that they are necessarily true, and I think this is an opportunity for yourself to clarify us, to affirm or to dismiss what we're continuing to read. On page 9 of your slide, so I'm looking at the graph, for example, and I want to take it from 2016, where one, you are mentioning a problem about the change in GMs that it caused instability in the institution. But if you go down to 2018, and I also want to link it to when you were answering one of the question with my colleagues here, you spoke about political instability that then comes and affects the institution. So post the 2017 general elections, immediately a year after in 2018, okay. In 2018, just before the 2019 elections, you reached a general capacity which is above 70%. Just that I don't have my glasses with me, but I was trying to underline.
Your EAF in 2018 was just 75%, yeah? That's where you are, 75%, okay?
And in 2016, it was low.
Yeah, it was?
Yeah,
65, yeah? Yeah, 65.
I think, Mr. Moyo, you already get my question. That can you please take us through what are the lessons to be learned here? And whether you can employ that from now moving forward, within the vision of the effective 2024. We get it next year. The other one is just that
That's where your mic is.
Okay, sorry, thank you, Chair. The other one, I I missed, you spoke about that, you said it's coal which was delivered and you discovered that it was wrong. Was it coal? I'm going to ask you, you said it was what? It was fuel, yes, all right, thank you. Yes, which was, so I want to understand, one, what are the terms of reference of the soldiers? I want to assume they would not necessarily have the capacity to test that this is the correct fuel. What is their terms of reference? What security measures have you put in place? Maybe I should say from the time when you came to Parliament to date, because it seems like it's a recent win. Did you reshift people from who were elsewhere to bring the capacity? I hear you keep on talking about cameras. And surely it can be, it should be more than cameras, because cameras can also be manipulated by a human element. I'm interested in, or is it that all the time you always knew, okay, there is wrong fuel that is coming, but let's look away, let it pass. Now that you are coming and you are saying zero tolerance to crime, you are motivating, and somebody who is stationed there is now saying, I will be able to speak if I see something wrong. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Let me just take the one point. The rest of the conversations are in the box of operations. Advocate Karen Pillay is not here because she's kind of, I don't know what the polite word is, but suspended with pay while the executive team conducts investigations to assess the veracity and accuracy of these charges, these allegations rather, that we've all been reading about. The briefing that I've had from the acting group chief executive is that it would appear that this is not the first time, I'm talking particularly to the fidelity contract allegations. It would appear that it's not the first time that the allegations are leveled against her. And it would appear that in the past some semblance of investigation took place but couldn't come conclusively to clearing her name. So like all investigations, it's best when the incumbent is asked to stay at home so that you can have unfettered investigation conducted, and then once all is clear, whatever outcome then will shape what then becomes the reality. So that is the reason she's not here. Thank you, Chairperson.
Yeah, in terms of 2016, 2017, I think 2018, the sudden rise in terms of performance. Yes, is there a learning? True, there is, in terms of what actually took place there before we went down on decline. And then one of the key factors is that, which we have learned from this, is that when you have got the right people, and then you drive performance, and then you encourage and recognize, then you start having that. We had, during this period, really, like we are currently having the winter challenge and so on. If we zoom onto it, you'll find that here we used to say, if we don't burn fuel oil, because of diesel, and then the money which we save can be used as bonuses. So it became a carrot to most of the people, which was very encouraging. And I've said it currently that we have decided to recognize small benefits in terms of performance improvement to try and actually recognize people and encourage them. But also, in certain cases, we have realized that you need to practice that strong leadership, which gives direction to the people. Hence, we said we suspect that the changes in leadership should have affected, because it caused instability in the short term. And then, hopefully, I answered that. In terms of fuel oil, I was keen, exactly as you said, how do we measure it? Because people normally break the rules. As I said, we have got a soldier stationed there, but coupled with that is the technological advancement in terms of drones following the truck as it travels and goes to the fuel oil. But we have also tried our level best to put in that Hydra system, which the guys have got to put it on camera. As they receive the truck, they take the picture. As it is empty, they again take the picture so that it gets into the system. And I was hoping that during our planned walk, we can take you to that area because it became a well-spoken area in terms of fuel oil stealing, sorry. So it was part of our strategy to say we will show you exactly so that it doesn't become unclear how this fuel oil came about.
Thank you very much. Honorable Hatebe with an H.
Mateo. Thank you, Chair, and let me welcome the presentations. Just want to first ask, in terms of these units, 6 of them, when I look into the presentation, the last time you reach the energy availability factor of more than 50% was 2019. Since then, it's going down from 40, we are now at 27%. Even on 2024, we are also indicating that you'll still be below 30% on 2024. When last did we have all units functioning? That would be my first question. I'm interested to understand when last, and if it's been anything to go by looking at this graph. It appears as if it's over 10 years that you've had units, all 6 of them fully functioning. And my second question is to get a sense, what is the capacity of how much can you produce and how much is each unit producing? That will be my other question. We are here also based on what the former Group Chief Executive raised. And our oversight, we also want to ascertain and understand the extent to which allegations made by the former Group Chief Executive are true or not. We've all witnessed and saw the army outside, and you've also spoken about the number of security personnel that are here. It seeks to suggest that indeed there are challenges. The former GM had a bulletproof vest and bodyguards. I was hoping you also touch base on the issue of cartels on your presentation as raised by the former Group Chief Executive. Have you, fortunately, you are saying you're from Standerton. You've been here since 1995. And surely, as you have correctly put it, the people of Standerton know you. Is the issue of cartel a reality? Is Standerton a breeding ground for corruption? What have you done
about such. SEP only come in when cases are reported to SEPs. I know that it is not, it's not your duty to prosecute thieves and criminals, but SEPs can only do that once you have reported the cases, and when you have internal controls in measures to detect, prevent, and report such cases. So my question is primarily based on that, not that it is your duty and responsibility to chase after criminals. So in relation to the cartels, they are operating within ESKOM as per the former group chief executive. What have you done about that? Mr. Moyo, you said it's difficult to prove sabotage. SEPS is saying to us the last cases of sabotage were reported was February, meaning before then there were cases of sabotage, if the last one was in February. So there were cases of sabotage previously. I'd like to get an understanding. What was the extent of sabotage then as compared to now, and what has been done? I can decide not to report so that it appears as if there's no longer a sabotage now that it has been brought bare by the former group chief executive. I'm not saying that's the case. So if you choose not to report, obviously SEP will say issues of sabotage are no longer rife to Tuga, but I want to get to understand the extent of sabotage till February, when it was last reported, and what has changed since then. Resistance to effecting consequence management was also raised by the former group chief executive, that you have management and staff who resist change. Is that still the case? Have you changed the culture and inculcate the sense of taking responsibility for one's action and for reporting and dealing decisively with consequence management? The former group chief executive also made mention of ESKOM suppliers and buyers involved in corruption. Have you taken time to put measures in place to identify such suppliers? If not, are you of the view that there are suppliers who are milking ESKOM? And what are the plans in place to deal decisively? Because we were told that when there's corruption, there's a corrupter and the corruptee. So some of those are within ESKOM. Just to get a sense of what has been done in that regard. Now, with all what we have seen outside, the army and all the measures that are in place, your report, there are 24 cases that you have reported, only 24, and only 6 fraud cases and 2 cases of theft. Are all these cases a contributing factor to what is currently happening in Tutuka and to what is termed as a breeding ground for corruption? Are there any other cases that you have not been able to unearth and uncover, based on what we have raised, that some of the, I've seen also the report, some of the cases are difficult to prove. You ended up having to close some of the cases. What is the extent of such, where you find that you might have a case here, but because of safety and the fear from witnesses to come out, you end up losing those cases. What is the percentage of such cases? I was grappling to understand unethical conduct and negligence in your report. But because of time, I'm sure you won't be able to tell us in all these 24 cases where you have reported unethical conduct. In other cases, you have spent 24 months suspending a person. When the case is concluded, it's 7 days without pay. I'll sit at home for 24 months being paid, and my fine that I'll go stay home for 7 days. I don't know. I'm thinking the nature of that case, for it to take that long, it's a serious case. But the punishment does not speak to the time taken to investigate the case. Is there a correlation between the time it took and the seriousness of the case? Or why would you have cases that stretch as far as 24 months, but the outcome is the other one was given a 12-month warning? Are these employees back to their original positions? Those that were found guilty and were given warnings, are they back at their original position? And if so, what has been done to rehabilitate them, for them not to commit similar forms of criminal cases? Have you had instances where you had to charge one employee more than once on the same allegation or unethical conduct? I'm interested to find out exactly what is unethical conduct. If that information can be furnished to us afterwards, because it will consume much of our time if we were to go case by case. But I suspect you do have a sense and an understanding of what are these cases, so that we get a sense and understanding whether or not the punishment is justified in relation to the crime committed. I'm not sure whether or not this much talked about car wash, where shenanigans are happening. It's in and around the area. I'm sure you've listened to the interview of the group chief executive, that there's a famous car wash here where these criminals go to. In Witbank. Oh, it's not here. Malahleni. Oh, okay. Oh, you know it.
Okay, let's come back to it so we can get responses.
All right. So it's a good thing.
Chair, I think in terms of taking, yes, in some of the issues we will talk during our work report, but I'm much interested in getting to understand the performance of these units and how often they've been.
And how often have been giving you problems? 7 months, because you add the other one you've mentioned days, which is, if I do my quick calculations, more than 7 months. The other one is 4 months. Once these units get repaired and they are functioning, how long do they stay functioning until they break down? Because the unplanned breakdown, the red part, it's more than 60%. It seems to suggest that some of these units, they break down frequently. And in one of your presentation or response, you spoke about relying on the original equipment manufacturer to assist you. Does that suggest that you do not have in-house capacity? When the original equipment manufacturer comes to fix, you don't learn anything. Do you have to all the time rely on the original equipment manufacturer to fix some of your plants and packages? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, let's get responses to that.
I'll try and summarize. We have got 6 units, 3,600 megawatts, which is 600 megawatt per unit. That was the first question. When was it last that we had how many? 6 units running. I think I will not have a date in the head, but remember when the president visited, just after that we had 6 units for a very short time, because it was celebrated that for the first time since 2019 or so, we had 6 units running. But I want to put it into perspective, because each unit, as we say, is 600 megawatts. But when we talk about 6 units running, they might be running on a very low capacity, which means you might have the 6 lights which we put, but each unit might be producing 200 megawatts, 300 megawatts. So the analysis and the number of units is not relative to the amount of megawatts which are produced. Fully high. No, not that high. No, we haven't. It has been a long time since Tutuga ran with full capacity.
They don't have a discussion. They don't have a date.
They don't have a date. Okay. And then we go to the cartels. Yes, there was a story in terms of the cartels on Andres book. I've also asked when I came here, quite interested, to say, do we have cartels in Standard? Nobody can tell me of a cartel. So that. Sorry. Oh, by the way, when you press this one just now. So there is no particular person who can say to me, we have got cartels in Standard, which are existing. I haven't heard anyone saying, yes, there is cartel. So whether there was truth into it or not, I would not admit. But when you go to Migliberg, there were names which were mentioned, and sorry, to Emalahlen, there were names which were mentioned, which I know those gangs start. But how do they infiltrate ESKOM? I would not say. But I think it's common knowledge that there are people who actually pay people outside to cause terror and havoc to the people inside. For example, it's common knowledge there's a lady who calls herself ANC activist called Mkabai Bullet Kachinova. So whenever she is fighting you, she will write to you on social media. So it's a well-known thing, and she is causing terror because people within ESKOM, I think they are scared of. I was an example of that, and I had to go to the High Court to deal with her conduct. And she continues to do that despite opening police cases against her. But you can hear the name. But I think she has been targeting if a contract is cancelled for poor performance. Therefore, the suspicion is that then they buy her. And then she deals with you.
Well, you're not helping us.
I don't know whether it's a cartel.
I'll tell you why. Earlier on, you said now you've got nothing that has come your way.
No, it's true.
Now, you said you've been around here, you live amongst the people, nothing has come your way. So, and I think, rather if you've got no knowledge, say that. Because the SIU has confirmed to us, formally in Parliament, the issue of, and initially I said whether you call it a cartel, a cabal, or whatever name you attribute to it, syndicates. The SIU has confirmed it to us that it's there and it's in 3 streams operating here. The SEPs have come through. So I think rather say you have no knowledge of it, but you see the contradiction now comes in. If you say you've got matters that you've reported to the SEPs and nothing has happened, and then you're venturing into contracts see. So rather, when we come back, go rethink your response on this one, because it is finding itself on very shaky ground now.
Okay, so yes, on cartels, yes, I've read, as you said, in terms of the book. I've heard definitely like the Chicha gang, which is operating in Witbank, but in Standerton, as I said, there's nothing I've heard in Standerton. So I'm talking about my life in Emalahleni, which is Witbank. But here in Standerton, nothing of that matter. And in terms of operating within ESKOM, here in Standerton, I have not heard anything which is since I arrived or before my time, which can allude to the fact that there were cartels operating with ESKOM. Yes, I have not heard anything. And you asked me about sabotage cases.
Sorry, GM. Then why would a former general manager goes around with bulletproof vest and bodyguards and the family be escorted by security if there's nothing? Why would you have soldiers, a person walking around the entire shift carrying a rifle ready to shoot if there's nothing of Gantis?
Let me come in this way, with all your best intentions, my request is don't downplay the severity of this on the basis of hope. Your predecessor, your immediate predecessor, walked around this very power station in a bulletproof vest. Not Matla or Maju. Here, you told us that the SNDF must change the number from 24 to 44. When we arrived there, we were met with guns. We're not complaining, I'm just giving you what we saw. So let's not downplay the extent of the reality at play. The deployment of the military is not a child's play. It's not an intervention that the president would invoke with ease. Now, I get where you're coming from. You want to give us the confidence and assurance that things will turn around. But I must caution, don't have that hope and those best intentions laid out negating the extent of the challenges at play. Because they are there. And they don't just arise out of this book that was written. Because even in itself, it comes as a distraction. Because it seeks to purposes of all these things are new. Bottom line is, so I'm where Honorable Hadebe is. Your immediate predecessor here. Rather say, up to now, you've not received a threat. But I'm getting a sense that you may be wanting to give us a feel-good syndrome. That's not what we need. Because as I said to you, I'm going at this length, when we came here, we had to consider very carefully our approach as well, because of the extent of the criminality at play. I'll leave it at that. I just thought I should put that caution on the table.
Thanks for that, Chair. To be honest with you, obviously, even my family, after hearing about the bulletproof, because it has been there, are scared that I have taken the assignment of tutor. No one really would want to actually, I would not want to downplay it. As I said in my introduction, for now, I don't know what will happen when you step on people's toes. Because I just came from the 8th of May. I haven't had the experience which my previous colleague had. But definitely he received some threats. And then I've also said that today we are at CCMA putting a case with regards to Tutuga. And there was one colleague who could not go because his car was shorted. So, and I said whether there was a relationship with her giving evidence or what. But it tells us that there is something major which is out there, which I cannot put my finger on it. But yes, that I will agree 100% that for now I am not in a position to say it. And I don't want to say it will not happen, because I don't want to come back and then I'm under the same umbrella like my previous colleague. And then on the sabotage cases, in terms of Tutuga and the cases which are written there, yes, the lieutenant said that we had until February. I haven't had the opportunity to review most of the cases and to see where the cases of sabotage ended up, but each case has been investigated, and from where I am sitting, some of them were not clear whether it was sabotage or it was just simple negligence, as the lieutenant has said. So I cannot speak further on the sabotage cases, but we will have to make sure that our eyes are well open. Resistance to effect consequence management, yes, in most of the cases, as I said, out of general fear and the experience which the people saw their colleagues go under, there is that, not necessarily resistance, but fear to do anything. But it has not come across specifically to say these guys are threatening us. But from what we have seen, like the colleague which I'm talking about, where the car was shot at and they feel strongly that they are being targeted because they are witnesses, it has made people withdraw in terms of that. And then the ESKOM suppliers and buyers involved in corruption, I think in his book, he wrote about the kneecaps. I was the cluster GM, I think he wrote about me, saying that I showed him the kneecaps which were bought at 80,000 compared to the 152. There is a collusion between the suppliers and some of the buyers. And some of it has been unearthed, and therefore some of its disciplinary actions have been taken. How do I try to control it? I try now to invest on budget analysis and management. Because how did we catch the kneecaps? It was through the budgeting. You can actually see where the money is going. And then when you follow it, then you get a view in terms of that. But of course, there is that. I think the other honorable member raised the issue of what is this, which was raised in terms of a lifestyle audit. Yes, most of the cases, most of the lifestyle audits have been done. So that one I cannot dispute the fact that there is that. The reason why we talk about OEMs is because our processes initially said that we promote also companies, and most of them are not manufacturers. They buy from the OEMs. And then we have realized that some of the money which they charge us can go as 3 times, 5 times, 100% like the kneecaps. Hence the emphasis on OEMs. But we have got the capability within the power station to actually maintain our plant. So that is happening. One of the key things I thought maybe would be of interest is the visit to the stores, where we've done stores augmentation. That is where we don't have even spares here at Tutuga in terms of the stores, which actually shows as a negative impact, and hence the focus to focus on the stores as a unit. So the 24 cases, are they a contributing factor? My previous predecessor handled the cases. I did not have the privilege to be involved with the cases because he handled and we had case vendor from there. So I cannot talk much on the extent of the 24 months and therefore people staying for 24 months, whether it was due to investigation or what have you. But I cannot talk much on that. I think, did I cover everything? Yeah.
Yeah, Chair, just one point to add on the duration. I think it is a major concern because I think sometimes as management we sometimes get overexcited and then you suspend people without having the facts and then you start the investigation, then it takes on. So that's one of the things that we are dealing with to say, let's stop these things. If you suspend someone, you can't just relax as management. So at my level now, each power station manager need to account on the people that are on suspension because it's not helpful to just suspend on allegations and then we promote those numbers. So it's something that we need to deal with as well. So, thanks.
Just one question. I know you are at the academy and there's operations. What I want to get a sense of is where's the bottleneck in what I can term your investigations arriving at logical legal conclusions. I mean, we've spoken about cartels, cabals, syndicates. I would imagine if GM was threatened and he had to be placed under protection, something's got to give about that being investigated and somebody being brought to book about it. What I'm really trying to get at is that we are not feeling SEP's outcomes. Put aside seeing them. Just a sense that something is happening. It's just not there. Because, I mean, maybe I'm naive because I've never been a criminal. But my sense is that investigations and prosecutions exist, amongst others, as a deterrent to push back on the frontiers of this thing repeating itself in future. But here the people are daring, it continues. Not just here at Tutuga. Kusile, you know, we were hearing things about trucks being stopped on the way and the swapping of coal and so on of low quality. It continues. SEPs, let me be this frank. You have to step up and shape up. You are the missing link in between all these things. And the only way to change my view right now, whether it's a perception or fact, the only way to change it is if something meaningful comes out of these things. I just can't imagine in a country confronted with load shedding and you have a power station such as this one and its GM is under protection and something doesn't give as a sense of urgency. And then the SANDF is brought in. Nikhona, in your presence. I was analyzing outside. You've got SEPs today, I suppose, I'm not sure if they're here daily, the ones that we found here. SANDF, Bidvest as a security company. In the midst of all this security, where are the prosecutions? Honorable Bukers always tries and corrects my Afrikaans because I always say, Wat gaan aan, of Wat gaan nie aan nie. Here. I hope I got it right today. I tried. So that's the point. After all these things we've had here, the noble intentions, the turnaround plans, the hopes, the aspirations, whatever you call it, its major stumbling block is corruption and criminality. And the people who must investigate is the SAPs, in whatever material form you put it, whether it's the Fusion Center, the Anti-Corruption Task Team, or it's the Hawks. There is no logical, legal conclusion to these things. It sits as an indictment. So what I'm really calling on, General, take us into confidence, honestly, as to whether there is progress or where are the stumbling blocks. Yes, I get the issues of witnesses and the threats that they get. Those are part of strategy we must appreciate. But is there coherence in the conveyor belt of intelligence gathering? I've made the point ad nauseum. The former GCEO was not vetted, and he had in his possession information of the state in whatever way you want to put it. Right? So, SAPS, I think ultimately from where I'm seated, in large part, whatever ESKOM says in its various levels is largely dependent on an assurance from the law enforcement agencies that there will be enforcement and consequence management, which is not their purview. And we're not getting that. I went back in preparation for this oversight to the PMG writings, our own committee reports, and I'm just trying to find something in there, something to hang my hopes. And I don't find it. And I think it will be very dangerous when we don't have confidence in SAPS. Yeah, I'm in full agreement with the issues my colleagues have raised, but something in me says, let me momentarily channel myself to the law enforcement agencies.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The questions you're asking is important and significant, and I think you raised the point about taking you into confidence. I think part of the challenge would be normally SCOPA is open sessions, so that's a particular challenge in terms of the content we did in our report last time.
I'm not wanting details. I understand the sensitivities of investigations. What I'm saying is, let me put it mildly. Can you make a public commitment? Can you make a commitment to us? I don't know, something. Yeah, so don't worry about open and closed. The issues that are, investigate without divulging. But what we need is, some of these things are old.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. As I was saying, that I think there was obviously challenges, but I think in our first presentation to SCOPA, we did indicate that the priority committee, that's the integrated committee of all departments in the security, really started working in December, and the leadership team took over in January. We've then set up a whole range of capacities. One of the capacities is we have a team in Emalahleni that's led by a colonel, and General Zulu oversees that. We have worked our way through all the illegal coal yards that was swapping. Now in Standerton, there was also groupings here that were swapping coal, that was swapping fuel, that had inner outside groupings. We've mentioned that in our presentations. We've closed 85 coal yards, illegal, unauthorized coal yards. We did that with now obviously the charges on coal yards, on having illegal coal is not necessarily
necessarily so serious. So building up the criminal, the organized crime link from that, the mere, because you charge them under the Environmental Act. What is the Act?
NEMA Act. The
NEMA Act, section 34 of the NEMA Act, which speaks to environmental pollution and all of that, or operating a coal yard without a necessary permit. So those kinds of, but those operations as frontline operations enabled us to identify groupings in different levels of development, which we have identified. One, two, we were able to, now part of a prevention operation is what we call target hardening. So the SANDF is part of a deployment of a planned deployment, that they're not necessarily an indication of the fact that we're using them as opposed to SAPs. It's part of a planned deployment, and in that way, through target hardening, you protect the outside perimeter in a hardened fashion through strong visibility, through focus areas, and that's why within that context, the security services inside, the private security service inside, could operate better. We're not getting the level of intimidation that used to happen. We're still having it at some of our sites, some of the ESKOM building sites, where they shot three guards at the building site. So we're still progressing to those incidents, to those areas, but they are not the power stations. So the first level, the first phase of our operation was to target the power stations, and in the power stations specifically to look at the coal and fuel supply and deal with investigations, but also crime prevention actions to combat that. But maybe part of our challenge is that we don't necessarily tell our good story. It might be that issue, so that Scopa can ask, what have you done? So clearly it's our problem that we haven't told the story eloquently enough for that to happen. But we have identified criminal groupings at various levels as per the organized crime matrix, identified them. We still, and to be fair, Chair, it's an ongoing process. We are working with all role players to deal with those kinds of issues. Obviously, there has been the operations in an integrated fashion is really since December. The periods before, it was a reactive work where we picked up dockets and investigated it, not necessarily to look at the organized crime nature of it. And now that we're looking back at all of that, we realize we made certain mistakes. Certain things could have been done better. The coordination of all departments is a lot more focused now. We have, as I indicated, in our dynamic approach, we have Pillar 4, which is detection. Now, in that group, the NPA, Head of Organized Crime, NPA National Head, sits there, and they work through every week through cases, building up cases. So yes, it is slow, but we believe that soonest we'll be able to tackle the issues a lot better. We've referred some of our matters to SARS, and SARS is busy with these coal yard owners. We've referred some of the matters to AFU, and we find that there's assets which we've tracked, can't be explained. And we're looking, AFU is busy with that, but there's a whole integrated team looking at the whole investigations. But to be fair, we really from December have really worked this thing in an integrated, coordinated fashion. We are now fairly happy with the progress we've made, and we believe that we've included the 2 power stations in Limpopo, Matimba and Madupe. We've extended it there just in case, although we don't have major issues there, but to prevent issues from creeping in there, we've extended that. We have now gone to the next phases where we've met with ESKOM, their transmission areas and the generation and the distribution areas, and we also met with the municipalities. Initial meeting was with 5 municipalities. We're intending to meet with all the key metros to ensure that we deal with it across the value chain. part of the work, you know, in the problems we have with cable theft. We're trying to, unfortunately, the ban of copper has been extended now for another 6 months, so that gives us enough opportunity to look at these huge copper heaps that are building up. A part of what we're assessing now is to see, we're still finding cable theft, but the heaps haven't gone bigger. So where are they? So we're looking at that. We've met with the Border Management Agency to look at if there's been copper going out. The interesting part, since the copper ban, we have more copper coming in for some strange reason, and so we're trying to understand. So across the whole value chain of generation, distribution, and generation, transmission, distribution, and delivery point at municipal level, we're looking across the board. We're happy with the progress made in the first phase, which is the generation space, and the fact that there's partnerships growing. General Zulu, in our operations, meet regularly with the power station managers and to ensure that there's work done, and we can. So the partnership is growing, but yes, we're not there yet with the criminal prosecutions, but we believe we will get there, at least in different phases. Thank you. I submit.
Thank you very much. So will we ever get there? If we ever get there, I can't sing, but it's along those lines.
I see you when you get
Yeah,
there.
yeah. All right. No, thanks, General. I think the statement that you're not there yet, but you're getting there, I think it suffices. It just is urgency required. Right, Mr. Chairman, I think we have exhausted insofar as what the presentation had in store for us. We will get back into your hands and do the site visit. The conditionality is that if what you have told us, if big if, major if, gigantic if, what you have told us all comes to pass, then we can, to some extent, be cautiously optimistic. If, Uma. Yeah. So I think what we really want is you meeting the targets you have set and turning this power station around. Yeah, that's all that's required. We came here out of concern for a power station that's performing way below what it should. Why? So if there's plans in place, stick to them, and we will hold you committed to your own commitments. As the saying goes, failing to plan is planning to fail. So if you stick to the plans, I suppose we can all be cautiously optimistic that at least Tutuba is Tutuba. So Mr. Chair will be in your hands, and then we will go on the side visit. Colleagues, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Colleagues, the meeting is still on. The chair is on the platform. The meeting is still on. The chair is on the platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. You know, out of the official languages we speak in our country that I am generally fluent in, I have so far only found this expression in the Tsonga language. On an occasion like this, when we're all as optimistic as we seem to have made the committee to feel, it's a pity there's no translators here, but I'm going to pick on the Honorable Member to see if she'll be willing to assist me. Mchangana uku lokwane ritimbia. She doesn't know it. She knows the expression. Lokwane ritimbia. Anito una imichila lokwe kupulupu. So in English, the direct translation is that if only we were dogs, you would see by the movement of our tails. Because the Tsonga-speaking people observed that when a dog is sad or concerned, the tail tends to face south. And when a dog is optimistic, the tail is wagging, facing up. So to have come this far in the 7 to 8 months that we've been in office, to us feels like that moment. So we continue to be on that. We are beyond UMA. Uzwide is a bit shy today. I don't know what you did to him, Chair. But 2 weeks ago, it was the first time that I saw both our ministers kind of speechless after they had his account of what he's doing on the ground and the results that are showing. And so we take confidence in the existing leadership. From a board point of view, we are steadfast to ensure that at the right time, hopefully we strengthen the leadership as well in terms of the potential candidate for Group Chief Executive and other subsequent appointments that will be made, to make sure that we really firstly live up to our commitments in terms of the turnaround plan that we committed to, but most importantly that we can start looking beyond the turnaround and start doing other things that are important to sustain the performance of ESKOM. And so it is our intention to live up to our words, and it's our intention not to disappoint, and we'll continue to try our best. Chair, thank you. Zwide and Mr. Moyo, I'm sure you've got someone who's going to tell us where to change into PPE, those who need to change into PPE, and also the safety briefing on how we go about what we're about to go about. So if we may then place ourselves in your hands.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe, Chair, if we can get guidance in terms of the time so that we can also time the visit, because I think the team can go all over so that at least
we're still good on time. So I think take us. We'll be flexible around an hour to max an hour and a half. Yeah. Well, Chair, maybe produce more readers as well. I see there's heightened emphasis on him, so the academy becomes of critical importance. General?
Maybe, Chair, when we were here last time, they broke us up into 3 groups. One went to the stores, and 2 went to the different units, and in that way we could see different things and report back differently. Otherwise, you won't, in the hour, won't be able to see a lot of the areas specifically. So, thank you.
We will Simunye, we are one. You know, we will go and see how far it goes. Zwit,
okay. So through you. There was lunch as well, which is ready, but